Welcome to the Thrive Club Co podcast. This episode that you're about to listen to is from the archives before our rebrand to Thrive Club Co. But the message we delivered then is still aligned with our core mission and core message today. Enjoy.
Episode 2. What does it mean to truly love yourself, and how does that correlate into the ability to love others? Welcome back, everyone. It's your girl Jordan here with episode 2, where we are talking all things love today. How to love yourself, how to love other people, and everything in between. Now that we are post-holiday season, a time of year that can be a little draining and taxing on oneself mentally and spiritually, physically, can feel your love tank and wanting to share time with others feeling a little bit drained. And I thought no better time than at the beginning of the new year to offer that fresh slate and to really ask yourselves a couple of important questions about love. Filling up that love tank for yourself first in order to be able to pour a cup of love for others. I was thinking about this topic really during the holiday season. So again, no better time than this new year to offer that reflection and assessment of how can you honestly answer the question, do I love myself? How do I even define love? What is love in my own terms? Sure, I can look it up in a dictionary or look it up on dictionary.com and see what that word of love means. But what does it really mean for me? How do I love other people? What is my capacity to love others? How is that capacity shown? Where am I maybe limited in my capacity to love myself and love others, and why? What's holding me back from that? And can I accept myself for who I am? Can I accept me for me? Is there something that I'm not accepting that's withholding myself from truly loving myself? Kind of starting off hot in this podcast today because these are not easy questions to answer, and they take some time and consideration and reflection diving in. But reminiscing on this topic, I was thinking that back to a time I had a former partner tell me, Jordan, you can't really love me until you love yourself. And kind of punched a little bit at the time. Definitely hit me to my core. And the irony is that at the time, he said that while very much hating himself. However, those words are true. How do you really love someone else if you don't truly love yourself? And having to call yourself out and look in the mirror and ask yourself one day, do I love myself? It's a pretty daunting, difficult task to do until you're really faced with it. And I think that's why it's an avoidant topic, an avoidant task for many people, because it is very difficult to really admit that to yourself. And thinking back, there was a time in my life where I deeply believed that love was not real. I remember it like it was yesterday, one of my best friends that I lived with for many, many years back in California. We were living in one of our first apartments in Westlake Village. We're sitting in the kitchen. I'm leaning up in the doorway. She's sitting on our wood kitchen table. Somehow the topic of love came up. And now that I think of it, I think we were talking about the breakup between my former long-term boyfriend and I, who his alcohol and drug addiction had severely impacted, obviously, him, but myself and our relationship. And when that came to its tumultuous end, I remember just thinking, how can someone say that they love you and then do all those things to you? How can someone romantically say they love you and then physically hurt you, emotionally hurt you, verbally hurt you, mentally hurt you, spiritually hurt you? Like, how does that work, right? I mean, it made absolutely no sense to me, and it doesn't make sense in general. It made no sense to me how that could correlate. I just could not wrap my mind around how someone could say that they love you while doing those things. And anyways, that got brought up, and my friend and I were talking, and clear as day, I remember looking at her and saying with the utmost conviction at the time, I fully believed this when I said it, that there is no such thing as love. It does not exist. It is not real. Love is just made up, and that's that. There is no romantic love. I mean, Sure, there's got to be some type of like familial love, right? Because I love my mom, I love my brother, but there has to be some type of cap, even on that, because there's just no such thing as love in this world, because people hurt you and say that they love you. Well, that's an oxymoron in and of itself, so can't be real. And I think back to who I was at that time. I was in my early 20s, and thinking back to how my friend looked at me with a bit of sadness in her eyes as I was saying that with so much conviction. And I fully believed that for many years, that love did not exist, that there is no true way. And it made me, sure, I was like a friendly person and everything, but inside I had just such this callous, cold heart. And looking back, I see how my heart was so broken when I was saying that. And gosh, it's just so crazy. I mean, but I would never let anyone see that. I mean, I was friendly and personality wise, like friendly, but there's that side of me where my heart was just cold and callous and broken. And abandonment played a big part with men and father figures in my life growing up. And I continued that cycle into relationships that were just disappointing or detrimental, that I just thought, how could someone who has told me that they love me forever could abandon me, abuse me, hurt me? Then love was just not actually real beyond some type of basic primal capacity for love of kinship. But even then, I didn't know if I really believed it or not. I thought it was just a word that you said, and that's just it was such a negative way of thinking. And it really wasn't until the start of my healing journey in July 2022 that I even dove into unraveling that blockage, that mental blockage I had regarding love. And that was the first step, was admitting to myself that I actually hated myself, which I laugh now just because of how sad it was and how many other people feel that way who have experienced that. I mean, the first step of admitting to yourself that you actually do not love yourself, that as a matter of fact, that you actually hate yourself. That was the first step. And boy, was that hard as shit to admit. It was pretty rough. I mean, having to admit anything to yourself that you're not over the moon proud of or all too happy about with yourself, it's just hard to admit out loud in general. So to look yourself in the eyes as that first step and say, you know what, I want to, but I don't love myself. It hurts. It hurts yourself, like that inner child within you, your higher self, even reflecting back at you, looking in the mirror. It hurts to admit that, because that's just the start. That's just the beginning of unraveling and unlayering all the other reasons of, well, why do I feel that way? Like, how did that come to be? What choices am I ashamed of or disappointed in myself in that are leading down this path that I dislike myself so much? What is it about me that I dislike who I am? Or what belief systems have I put in place over the course of my life that I feel this way? So it's a whole journey, whole long path to take layer and layer and layer of admitting why hate yourself. And ultimately you have to face and admit everything that you've done that you don't like or that you're not proud of. And then came forgiveness, which is a whole other topic, a whole other podcast to go down a rabbit hole on. But nonetheless, forgiveness is 100% tied into love, because you have to go on this journey to accept yourself, to even begin trying to love who you are, which means to love your flaws, to love your mistakes, love some serious cringe or regrets. It's hard. It's tough. It's long, but it's so absolutely freeing once you get to the other side. But it really wasn't until I learned to truly love myself that I had a capacity to really deeply experience a pure, true form of love for other people too. And I don't say that in a way that, oh, I never loved my mother. Oh, I never loved my brother until this. Of course, I love my mom and love my brother deeply. So I absolutely love them, and I love my sisterhood of friends and love people in my life. But I always thought there was a cap to that, almost a shallowness of a cap to love, a shallow cap to love. So it wasn't until I really learned what it meant to forgive and love myself that it was like this light bulb came on, and walking into this pure form of light and energy of feeling what love is. And it sounds so crazy because it's like for the first time in your life ever feeling that within you for yourself and towards life in general and towards other people. It was gnarly. It was so cool. And it was so crazy that I'm like, damn, I'm really gone, you know, 27, 28 years of my life without knowing how beautiful this feeling is. But thank goodness that I now know what this is like, because this light bulb is now never turning back off again, now that I know how this feels truly. And it was really just incredible. And as much as a hard journey as that is, I think that a lot of people do struggle with that, to actually love themselves truly and purely and fully. However, I do think there's a really big movement now in people realizing that and waking up, and that means having to admit things you don't like to yourself and going on that journey. So it's long and it's hard, but the commitment to it is what you get on the other side through that mountain is miraculous. So I do really, I think I think all of us are really seeing this big journey for people wanting to heal themselves and what that life looks like on the other side of their own mountain, which is pretty impressive and incredible. But, one of the first steps is really admitting things that you feel shameful about, like shame or guilty about. And I think for me, I felt a lot of shame with choices that I made in my early 20s, and having to forgive myself for not knowing better, or forgiving myself for knowing better and still making bad choices, like dabbling in drugs and substances, things that didn't necessarily make me a better, smarter, productive person. Nonetheless, they were all things that led me to this part of my journey, and I'm grateful for those experiences now. But I kept an overwhelming amount of guilt and shame for them, for, when you're hiding, dabbling and doing drugs, and it gets a little out of hand, and hiding it from certain people or from your family or certain friends because you're afraid of their disapproval, because you really disapprove it in yourself. You carry that weight of shame for you. And shame is so on the lower level of energy frequencies that it does nothing but bring you down. And when you carry that shame, it's hard to feel that love for yourself. Or I think this is a really common one, especially people within my age group, maybe just because that's what I see a lot of. But I think people also of all ages and walks of life, it's that not maybe being happy exactly with where you're at right now, and having to hold faith onto something that you are hopefully in alignment to get to where you are going. But in the meantime, the big one for me of having to admit that I was so unhappy with where I was at in my life, that at 25, I thought I was going to be in a different place. At 26, I definitely thought I would be in a different place. At 27, I thought I would definitely be in a different place. And holy shit, was I wrong. It made me face, though, what decisions am I making in my life right now that are not being conducive to me getting to where I want to be? Because obviously that's a blockage to me, and having to release all of these emotions to feel love for myself, to say, you know what, it was a crazy experience to really explain. But it's like, once you start to feel all the emotions, the shame, the guilt, the regret, the wishing you were at another place in your life than where you currently are at and whatnot, once you say them out loud, once you are aware of them, you can then start to release those emotions from your mind, from your body, choosing to make different choices, saying, okay, I don't like that I'm at this point in my life. What can I do differently? I'm not happy with maybe some of the habits that I'm doing. Maybe I need to refocus or realign. Let me write down what I actually want out of my life. Who am I surrounding myself with? Is that helping me get to where I want to be? Is that helping me be just a better person? Scratch my idea of, success or where I want to be or where I want to live or what I want to do. Like, how about who I am? Am I being conducive to my own being, my present being form that I am right now, is that helping me be my best self? And then dive into all those other things of, well, is this helping me get to where I want to be? Not just who I want to be and who I am, but where I want to be in my life. So it's a kind of a domino effect once you start lining up all of those things. And it becomes very freeing, because as you release one, you then begin to release another and another, and it does take some time. But the weirdest and coolest thing is once you start to forgive yourself and love yourself, it's this symbiotic relationship, this synchronicity of, I love myself so much that actually I don't want to do drugs anymore. That I want to pause my drug habit because I finally love and respect myself enough every day that I wake up that I want to treat my body with respect. That I do not want to put this drug in my body. That I'm going to go for a walk for 5 minutes outside because I know that that's what's good for my mindset right now. Because I'm not going to give up on myself, because I love myself enough that, you know what? Now I got a fire under my ass. I'm going to wake up and choose myself every day because I am worthy and I am deserving of love, because I have finally worked through the entire process of loving myself and forgiving myself, that holy shit, nothing is holding me back. Wow. It's really crazy. It's this impeccable domino effect that happens. And I noticed you start loving people differently. Your friendships, your relationships with your family and friends, it does change. I started to feel like I could really love people and accept people for who they were. Loving certain family members and accepting them for who they are. Maybe I don't agree with them. Maybe I'm still working on forgiving them, but I can accept them for who they are and understand that I cannot change them, but that I love myself enough that they don't have to affect me. I choose to not let them affect me how they once did, and I accept them. And whole other topic of adding in boundaries for that. That'll be a later podcast, but just being able to accept a family member for who they are, for their antics, for all the things that you disagree with what they do, that you can accept them. Maybe that means that you love them present in your life, or that you love them from afar, but nonetheless, you love them differently. Your friendships, even able to be a better friend, a friend that's checks in often with your circle, with your people, that shows love selflessly to others. I promise you, the second you start to commit to it, to diving and unraveling and choosing to love yourself, you will experience opening your eyes the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning, and feeling this aura and presence of love in your body, this gratitude to be alive, because you value yourself in your life enough now that you are grateful to be alive, and you feel love, and you're happy that you have that day, that you have relationships with people, that you feel love around you. It will change your life in ways that I had no idea were coming to me. It's really beautiful. And even on down days, to go back to that source of love, it really does change your mindset. And it's a really powerful tool to get your mindset back on that track of love, which vibrates at one of the highest frequencies of all things around us, and the highest emotion around us. And at the root of loving yourself and loving others, it's so important to remember the connection between love and accept myself. I can fully love myself because I accept myself for who I am. I accept myself for my past. I accept myself for collectively all that makes me me, good, bad, and the ugly. I can actively love my family and my friends and others because I accept them for who they are, not passively grow resentment or hate for them, whether they're in my life or not. It's respect, it's acceptance, it is love. It's waking up and choosing yourself every day is one of the purest forms of love that you can do, because even on those hard days, if you don't give up and you keep doing it, and you wake up the next day and you keep choosing it, and maybe that day is hard, but then you wake up the next day and you do it again, you're loving yourself in a way that you've probably never felt before, because you've never chosen yourself like that before. It's incredible. It's a powerful, very powerful act. And I found that doing mantras and having your phrases, your affirmations that You pick 1, 2, or 3 that you want to say to yourself every morning, then every middle part of the day, and then every evening, and honestly, throughout the day. Like, the more that you say it, the more that neuroplasticity kicks in and you are rewiring your brain. You're releasing those things. When you feel shame or guilt about something, letting yourself feel that emotion and letting that energy actually run through your body. And then say, I can forgive myself for that because I can still love myself. I choose to love myself. So I really encourage you to find a couple of different mantras that work for you, whatever those may be for what you are wanting to release the most out of those negative emotions or feelings or behaviors or thought patterns to get to that highest point of love. Because, well, let me tell you, it just changes your whole life. I 1000% sign my name off on that. It will change your entire life. To really wrap up the end of this podcast on the topic of affirmations and mantras that are rooted in loving yourself and others, part of my daily meditation and prayer, I start every single morning and I say just how happy and grateful I am to be alive and well right now. Every night before I go to bed, I say how much I love and respect myself. In that morning meditation and prayer, one of my first few words out of my mouth is, I'm so happy and grateful now that I love and respect myself. And when I first started learning how to meditate and about affirmations and how neuroplasticity balances with affirmations to make lasting progress and change by rewiring your brain, that was a big one that I would repeatedly use throughout the day was, I am so happy and grateful now that I love and respect myself. I am so happy and grateful now that I love myself. I am so happy and grateful now that I love myself and that I respect myself. So to end this episode today, give it a shot. You can use my words I just said. I'm happy to share my affirmation and my mantra is what has proven to work for me. You can also use some of your own, or I encourage you to use some of your own, but that is a great starting point. And of course, as always, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for tuning in. And check back next week for the new podcast. But in the meantime, make sure that you're following, subscribed, like, share. Please comment. I would love to hear your feedback on this topic. And if you have any mantras and affirmations that you say to yourself that you love and that work for you, that you love to use, drop them in the comments and share them with some others, because we are only growing and collectively helping each other and helping others heal as well. Until next time, y'all, remember, it's not just a vibe, it's a thrive. Thanks for listening.